Hey everybody, it's your boy Blue here, and this week is the last video that we're going to be doing before the Geek Fest convention that's coming up. That will happen tomorrow on Saturday, and this is a special edition of Blue's Budget Brews because this is not just a commander deck, but it's a slightly upgraded commander deck. This deck came about because I actually got an order for this deck. I talked to the customer specifically about what they wanted and what they didn't want. We finally came to the realization that what he wanted was not going to work with this commander, because he specifically wanted this commander as a dinosaur tribal, and that wasn't going to work because, I mean, yeah, you can have dinosaurs, but if you want to do that, you do it with a different commander. So I changed it into basically Spellslinger, infinite combo, fun. The problem came about that he didn't tell me where he lived, and ended up being that he lived in Australia, and after I had gotten the deck to the budget, which he gave me was $125, the shipping was going to end up being about $40, and that was well over his budget, so he wasn't able to buy it, and he didn't want a downgraded version because he liked what I made. So what that means is I'm stuck with the deck. So since I have a con coming up tomorrow, I'm going to try to sell it at the con. So I've done some changes to the deck. The original deck was $125. We've gotten it down to $100. So I'm going to go over the deck, give you a little different kind of upgrade section for it, just in case you want a couple things to know. It's not going to be anywhere near as in-depth because this deck was basically done the way that it was. And sure, you can always have upgrades, but it wasn't going to work. So let me tell you what it is. So it's Kalamax the Stormsire, which you can see right here. It is 3-color, red, blue, green, and then a 1 for a 4/4 elemental dinosaur. Kalamax's abilities are whenever you cast your first instant spell, only instant, each turn, so it can be on your opponent's turns. Kalamax the Stormsire, if he is tapped, you can copy the spell and choose new targets for the copy. And also, whenever you cast an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Kalamax. Now, with that last ability, it doesn't have to be the first of any turn or anything. That's whenever you cast any. So you can see where that's going to go. We're going to be doing Spellslinger, lots of instants and a couple sorceries because there are a couple infinite combos that you can do with this guy, and he's really good at that. So let me go over what I got in the deck, and then we'll go from there. So I always start off with lands, and let me go ahead and zoom it so you can see everything. So again, it was an upgraded deck, so there were some more of the... So I don't put a lot of the cards in my budget decks that are staples or needed because I have a finite amount of copies. So when I do a deck that is supposed to be upgraded, that's when I use them. So you're going to see stuff like Command Tower, especially since it's a 3-color deck. It needs it. Exotic Orchard. So it sounds like it would be dumb to put an Exotic Orchard in certain decks, but when your deck is 3 colors and the colors include blue and or green, usually your opponents are playing the same colors anyway, so you get some use out of it. There are the 3 guild gates for the colors in there, just so I can have some ability to get in there. The deck didn't include a lot of good lands because that wasn't what they wanted, and I didn't want anything coming into play tapped. I didn't want to spend any life on anything. They also didn't want that, so there's not a lot of that in here. There are some. These are the 3. Survivor's Encampment is an addition that only works very well, specifically in Kalamax. The reason for that, it comes into play untapped. It adds a colorless, so at least it adds something as soon as it comes into play. But the second ability is to tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So Kalamax's ability only works when it's tapped, so this helps enable it. And there's another option there too, it's Hold Out Settlement, same thing. The bonus to that for this is because also it doesn't come in untapped, it also adds a colorless right off the bat. But it adds 1 mana of any color in case you need it. So you can tap Kalamax to add the mana, and then cast the spell you want that can be copied. So those are good. Mirrored Landscape, so that you can thin the deck out, go get some lands. This deck is full of basics. Again, because the way that this deck was built and asked for, it was not intended to have high pricey lands. They wanted it within the deck. Encroaching Waste, because I've said it many times, my theory is that you always have at least 1 land destruction land. This one comes into play on tapped and adds a colorless, and then you can later on pay 4, tap it and sacrifice it to destroy non-basic land. So it's a small upgrade to previous versions. Again, Rogue's Passage, and the reason this is in here, other than, yes, commander damage, because there's a secondary way to win with this deck, is because it also makes it so you can attack with Kalamax, making it tapped because it doesn't have vigilance, and being able to cast things with being able to copy them. The secondary win con is actually because you're casting so many spells, you're making Kalamax big, so you can actually commander damage somebody out because he's going to grow so large. All right, and again, like I said, it's basically Forest and Mountains all the way through. So if you want to take a look at the deck list and see exactly how many there are in them, I'll have that link in the description so you can go ahead and take a look. Ramp, since we're in green, it was actually a little mixed just because of the way that, they wanted the deck to go, and I actually agreed with it. So for once, I'm putting a Soul Ring into a deck that's a budget deck because when it's a $100 deck, you kind of have to put the right cards in there. An Arcane Signet because it's 3 colors. A Commander Sphere also because it's 3 colors, but because it also helps you draw a card later if you don't need it. All right, so since we're in green, some other ramp style cards. This isn't really ramp. This was put in here because it fit a small theme here. So Commune with the Dinosaurs. Originally, this was supposed to be a dinosaur tribal with other things to do it. So that's why this got put in there. But it still works because it still helps you go dig for a land if you need it. So it looks at the top 5 cards of your library. You can reveal a dinosaur, and there are a couple more in here, so you can still get one. Or land from among the 5 cards, put it in your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library. So nothing goes to the grave with this one, so it fit. Thunderherd Migration. So if you have your commander out, it's 2 to cast. If you don't, and you don't have another dinosaur, I'm sorry, my bad. This one's to reveal a dinosaur from your hand. There are a couple dinosaurs in here, so this could be 2 if you reveal a dinosaur. Most likely it'll be 3. Search your library for basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Rampant Growth, we all know it's 2 to cast and goes and gets in basic. Farseek goes and gets a Plains Island, Swamp, or Mountain. Cultivate goes and gets 2. One goes into your hand, and the other goes into play. Harrow, it's an instant version. You sacrifice a land in addition to casting it, and go get 2 basics and put them into play. Not tapped. For Wanderings, it's a threshold version, so it goes and gets 2 lands. If you have threshold, it gets 3. And puts them into play. Circuitous Route, 4 to cast, search your library for 2 basics and/or gates. That's the reason why I chose gates as my option for the dual-colored land options, was because you can go get them and put them into play. So those are the I think that's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 options for ramping the deck. Should be enough. I don't see why it's not. The next section will be the creatures. There were not a lot, but again, there are a couple dinosaurs and things that help forward the deck's plans, if you will. All right, so we start off with Ranging Rappers. Again, a dinosaur, so I said there's a couple. It's a 3 to cast, 2/3, and then whenever it takes damage, you may search your library for a basic land and put it in the play tapped. That's why this deck has so many basics, because there's a lot of searches for basic lands in different forms. Young Pyromancer, because if you need, this doesn't have a lot of creatures in it, you're going to have somebody that's going to be a tribal deck. So whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, you at least can put a blocker out, or if need be, you can do a token swarm and go wide. Thermo Alchemist for that free damage. Basically, it's got Defender. It's got a big butt. It's an 0/3, so it can block a lot of things and still survive. But it taps to deal damage to everybody except you, to all your opponents. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you're going to tap them, so you can do it again. And there are a lot of instants and sorceries in here, so he'll be useful. Gutter Snipe, same thing. It's free damage. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you deal 2 damage to each opponent, and there's a lot in here. Stormkilling Artist. Now, this is put in here for the original idea before, everything else was set in stone. I didn't take him out because he's good utility for you. So it's 4 to cast, 2/2. Gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. And no, there are not a ton of artifacts in here, but there will be a lot of treasure tokens, because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you create a treasure token. That does 2 things for you. It helps ramp you if you need it, but it also helps you buff up one of your creatures so that it can actually be a kill card as well. Mischievous Chimera, so it's 2 to cast, 2/2 flyer. And whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you can scry 1, so you can take a look at what's on top of your deck. You're going to be doing a lot of casting during your opponent's turns when necessary. And the last creature on this section is Rutha Mercurial Artist, so it's 3 to cast, 1/4. Again, a big butt, so it helps defend when needed. But you can pay 2 and return it to your hand to copy an instant sorcery spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. That's the other part of the theme, is copying, obviously, because that's what Kalamax does, so that's why that's in there. As far as spell slinging stuff, so basically this is where all the card draw stuff comes in. This section will be your digging section. You're basically looking for your combos, your things that you need to win the game. So we start with Opt, obviously. We go to a Brainstorm because it's probably the best 1 cast instant draw spell that's legal, I believe. Slip Through Space has dual reasons. So it's a 1 to cast cantrip, but it makes target creature unblockable this turn, which means that you can attack with Kalamax. That could be a way to win because Kalamax has 21 power. It could be a way to tap it so you can cast something so it doesn't die. Many reasons for that one. Peek, so you can see if your opponent who is troubling you the most has an answer, so you can make sure to wait to do something, and then it cantrips. Peer Through Depths, let you look further and further down for that answer. Deliberate, again, lets you dig in further down and get your answer. Impulse, same thing. The good thing about Impulse is it doesn't have to be an instant like the other one, like Peer Through Depths. Harmonize, just good card draw. I mean, it's 4 to cast, draw 3 cards. I mean, it's one of the better card draw spells in, I believe, in Commander, especially since it's in green. Growth Spiral. It's a little bit of 2 things. It's card draw and it's ramp. So draw a card, put a land into play. Same thing with Eureka Moment. Draw 2 cards, put a land into play. And lastly, on the digging stuff, Expressive Iteration. So it's a red and blue, and then you look at 3 cards of your top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. And I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Put 1 of them into your hand, 1 of them on the bottom of your library and exile one of them. And then what happens with that is you may play the exiled card that turn. So obviously, you pick the cheapest spell that you want or the one that help you the most so you can get it. You know, you get the card in your hand plus the exiled card you can cast. So there's a reason why this is $5. It's actually really useful. Defensively, we've got a couple options. We're in blue, so we're going to do some counter magic. Prohibit, very underutilized. It's one of my favorite counter spells in all of Magic. It stops counterspell itself, like it actually counters counterspell just for 2. But it can stop other things that are higher casting costs by kicking it. So you pay 4 and you can counter anything up to 4. I love that card. Essence Scatter, basically just good utility for countering a creature that could end the game, like a Craterhoof. Negate will help stop any non-creature version of a Infinite Wind Con. If somebody has it, it's just good utility as well. Arcane Denial stops anything. Has some card draw built into it. Always good. Good old counterspell itself, obviously, because you just need to be able to stop something. Unwind is a good one, especially if it gets copied, because it has the clause of untap up to 3 lands. Now remember, you have to have a target for it to not fizzle on the copy. Vandal Blast, so you never know what you're going to run into. This helps destroy all artifacts in play that you don't control. And Blasphemous Act, like I said, one of the weaknesses of this deck would be facing a tribe like elves or something like that. So the more creatures on the board, the more, the less this costs, the more damage you can do to things and kill a lot of creatures. Targeted removal in Raven form, because there's not a lot of targeted actual removal. We're not in black, and we're not in white. So this is some of the best I could get in the budget that we were going for. So it removes, it exiles a creature or artifact, and then the controller of that creates a 1/1, and it can be foretold so that you can cast it for cheaper. So those are the defensive spells I have in there. We've got some utility. Utility is just broad, what would help the deck, and this is where we get into the meat of the deck. So obviously, we're going to do the budget version of tutoring that we could afford for the deck. That the purpose of the deck was to be a specific monetary amount. So we had to say we solve the equation so you could go search for an instant or sorcery. There are some others you can do, and I'll go into that later. The real meat of the deck is the copy spells, though. So we're going to start off with Increasing Vengeance because it can be used twice. Reverberate. Refuse to Cooperate. The Cooperate part. Now, this is a weird card. You can only use this in your hand, the Refuse part. And it Refuse deals damage to target spell's controller equal to the spell's converted mana cost. So if somebody puts a big bomb in play and then you want to deal damage to them, you can do it. I would definitely use that as soon as possible so you can get to the copy part, which is Cooperate. You can only play Cooperate from your graveyard. Just remember that if you've never seen one of those. Repeated Reverberation, so it's 4 to cast, it copies a spell twice. Wild Ricochet, same thing, copies a spell. Narcissus Reversal, this one's a nice, interesting one. So it copies an instant or sorcery, then you return that instant or sorcery to your hand so you can cast it again later. Twin Cast, same thing as just copies a spell. Teach by Example, so this one's a little more interesting. It's double blue or double red or 1 blue, 1 red. That's how those mana costs work. This one's interesting because it says when you cast your next instant or sorcery. So when you look at like Twin Cast, it says copy an instant or sorcery that's already on the stack. This one lets you copy your next spell, so you have to play them a little differently. So since we're doing a lot of copy effects, so say for instance Kalamax is out on the battlefield tapped, you can cast a Banefire for say 5. It copies, and then if you want to copy it again with say Teach by Example or Twin Cast, now you're dealing 15 for the same spell. You see where that's going. That's why this is in here. And remember, if X is 5, and the reason why I chose 5 is because it can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. So that's the reason why I chose number 5. You really want to cast this for 5, for X5, so 6. Same thing with Volcanic Geyser, only it doesn't have the nice little bonus of not being countered. So it deals X damage to any player. It's an instant version of it, so that's why it's double red. This one's a sorcery. Electro Dominance, again, an instant. It deals X damage to any target. You may then cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Imagine if you can do that with Kalamax tapped, you can actually do the damage and then cast 2 spells for free. Double Vision is the enchantment version of copying, so whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, remember that, you may copy it, and then you may choose new targets for the copy. This is an inclusion that I don't normally put in the budget decks for a couple reasons. One, I only have a couple, and I need them for myself. It's one of my new favorite enchantments in the game. It helps make it so you don't have a maximum hand size, it helps you draw cards, and then it also helps put +1/+1 counters on things when you draw cards. In a Kalamax deck, this is actually pretty good because you're usually going to use a lot of draw spells because you're in blue. It's nice to have Spellslinging so you can add counters to Kalamax. So imagine if you cast an Opt with this in play and Kalamax is out, it gets a +1/+1 counter for casting getting a copy when he's tapped, and then it gets a +1/+1 counter for drawing the card. So double the counters. Precognition Field, 4 to cast enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, by the way. Now you're actually, when we used to play back in the day, we used to cheat and look at the top card of our library before Scry was a thing. You know, it was accidental. It was just curiosity. Now you get to do it anyway. When you may cast the top card of the library if it's instant or sorcery, which most of this deck is, and then you may pay 3 to exile the top card of the library if it's in the way. Say you brainstormed and you want the card, you know, you want both. You want to. I know that you can do it the way you want to do it. With brainstorm, you can put it the way you want it, so you could honestly draw the card. But if you drew, say, 2 lands and you don't want either one of them, you can pay 3 to get rid of at least one, or 6 to get rid of both. Springleaf Drum has a huge benefit for this deck. So the benefit is that you can tap an untapped creature, so you're trying to tap Kalamax all the time, and then add a mana of any color to mana pool, just like those lands. So the bonus here is that you can tap in to add mana. That will help cast an instant that you will now be able to copy. Whisper Silk Cloak gets unblockable, so again, this does a couple things. It helps you be able to tap Kalamax because you can attack with it, and it won't die because it can't be blocked. It also protects him from being targeted because he has Shroud. The other thing is, when he's unblockable, that means if you've got 21 power, you can do the commander damage. So you see there's a bunch of avenues here to win. The inclusion here, so I had to take one combo out of the deck because it was monetarily too expensive. I wanted to bring it down to 100 for the con because I don't think somebody's going to spend 125. I had to replace it with something, and I noticed a very big theme missing here was being able to tap the commander at will. So I replaced those cards with things like vehicles, because the vehicles, it doesn't matter when you do it. You can create it at any time and any amount of time, so you can always tap Kalamax. So we went with Sleek Schooner, just because it's 3 to cast for 3 when you need it. I went with Raider's Carve because it's 3 to cast and a 4/4. It crews for 3, and remember Kalamax's power is a 4, so you can crew it no matter what. But when it attacks, you can look at the top card of the library, and if it's a land, put it on the battlefield tap. So it's quasi ramp, if you will. Mobile Garrison was because it was a 3 to cast that can be crewed cheaply, even though you're probably going to use Kalamax for it, and it's a 3/4. But whenever it attacks, you can untap another artifact or creature if you want to. You're obviously not going to untap Kalamax if possible. Excuse me. Bomat Bizarre Barge was because it was a 4 to cast 5/5. Crew was under the 4, so you could still crew it with Kalamax alone. And then when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So it was kind of like it had enough things in it that I wanted to add that. And the last vehicle that we added, and I think that was 5, so that there were 5 additional things that you could tap Kalamax with for free. It's a 5 to cast 8/6 with Menace, and it crews exactly for 4, which is what you want. And I know that I could have done things that crewed for more, because when you cast instants and stuff, you're going to make Kalamax bigger. I wanted to do it, follow the base power and toughness on him, so that you didn't have to worry about that. But this one's a good one because it becomes an 8/6 creature that has Menace, so you can actually start pounding on people too. So that was the utility section. And the last section I'm going to show you is the infinite combo. There are 2 here, and they need help a little bit with some of it, just because one of them is one card that fits with Kalamax, the other one is by itself a combo. So we're going to start off with Rise Storm Conduit. The reason for that is because there is an infinite combo in here with all the copy spells that I didn't go over yet. So with Kalamax tapped, with Ral in play, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, it does 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. That's what you're focusing on. Sure, he has a uptick of 2 to scry 1, which is always great. It's a good benefit. And then a -2, or it's quasi-ultimate. Whenever you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And yes, that's important. It's not part of the combo, but it really can help it. So when you copy a copy spell, it's infinite, because you have to play a sorcery first, so you can copy it. So say you take a ramp spell. That's why there are so many ramp spells in the deck. They are sorceries that don't affect Kalamax when he's tapped, so that the next thing you cast, if it was an instant, is a copy spell. Okay? So you copy the sorcery, and then the copy that you made of the copy spell copies the copy. Do you see where that goes? It infinitely loops that you're copying a copy spell. So you're constantly copying infinitely. Ral will deal the damage so that it wipes everything off the board, including your opponents, and then you win. And you have a good day. So that's why there are so many copy spells. And again, I wanted to find ways to search for Ral. Not very many options to do so without white. So that's why there are so many dig spells, because they're instants, which help make Kalamax bigger. They kind of go with the flow with Kalamax. But you don't have a searcher for Ral to get him out and play faster, so digging is what blue does. So the second one is a 3-card combo of Burji, God of Storytelling. You can read that. Grinning Ingus. I'll let you read that. And then, of course, Grape Shot, because Grape Shot's the kill card that you do. So I'll explain it. Burji says, it's a 3 to cast 3/3. Burji is a god that says whenever you cast a spell, you add a red until end of turn, and you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Creatures you control have most abilities, don't care about that. So that right there is adding a red every time you cast a spell. You're casting Grinning Ingus. You're paying the 3, adding the red. You're using the red to do Grinning Ingus's ability, which is to return Ingus to its owner's hand and add 2 colorless and a red, and you can activate that anytime you cast a sorcery only. So, you cast Ingus, add a red, pay the red on its ability, return it to your hand. You get a bonus of the 3 again, cast Ingus again, and you're going to keep doing it over and over again, so you get your storm count up. And then you cast Grape Shot to kill everybody in the game. So that's the other combo, all right? If you have any questions or concerns about that or need more explanation, go ahead and contact me. I'll give you that information at the end of the video, and I'll go over anything that you need to know about it. It's actually kind of fun. This is my style of deck. The colors are great. I love the colors. And not only that, but it's Spellslinger, and I play Talrand, for God's sakes. I mean, it's awesome. So, with that being said, I'm not going to give you a full upgrade guide. The reason for that is because, I mean, this deck is pretty much ready to go off the bat. I'm going to give you a couple that I can think of that would help you if you want to do it. I'm going to start off by telling you that this deck pretty much is all about the infinite combos. So these colors do a lot of infinite combos. Between the blue-green, the green-red, the blue-red, and the blue-green, or a combination of the 3, you can find a lot of infinite combos. The only thing that you need to help supplement those combos is tutors. So my upgrade guide is going to be telling you what you need and giving you a couple of examples, but that's it. So with tutors, you're looking for things like Mystical Tutor or Fabricate. Maybe there's something out there that can, I mean, if you want to do Gamble, you can to go find Ral. I wouldn't suggest that because it's such a, I mean, unless your hand's really a big size, I would kind of stay away from it. I see why you would, though. The other infinite combos. So I took one out of here just because the combo cost over $25 combined, and I wanted to bring the deck down from $125 to $100. So I took out Polyraptor, Marauding Raptor, and Impact Tremors. Now, the reason why I did that, so without the Impact Tremors, you could find Polyraptor and Marauding Raptor, and if you don't know that combo, basically, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to a creature when it comes into play, no matter if it's on your side or not. Polyraptor is a 5/5 that whenever it takes damage, it creates a copy of itself. It ends the game in a draw if you don't have a way to stop it, and I didn't want to take up a 4th spot for a combo like that for something that's expensive as well. So you needed a sack outlet to stop the loop. And all the sack outlets that are available in these colors are pricey. I mean, minus maybe Goblin Bombardment. Still up there, it's a couple bucks. But other than that, you couldn't really stop the combo without winning the game. You had to either win the game or you made the game end in a draw. And I didn't want to do that. So I took the combo out. You can add it back in. Impact Tremors makes it so that a couple of things happen. When you add Impact Tremors back in, you can do the Polyraptor, Marauding Raptor combo and end the game because it deals damage to each opponent. But it also, Impact Tremors also helps the Burgi combo because you're casting Grinning Ingus over and over again for basically free. So that could be another way to win as well. And there are a bunch more. I'm not going to give them all to you because there's so many that I just can't. But I'll give you that one. There's the Kills More card that you can add in here, Aether Flux Reservoir. Every time you cast a spell, you gain a life for each spell cast before it, and then you can pay 50 life to deal 50 damage to somebody. You can add that in here because of the Grinning Ingus Burgi combo, because you can keep casting spells and gain a bunch of life and then throw 50 life at people. It's a Kills More card is what I call it. Basically, you already can kill them with the combo, but if you add that, it makes them more dead, which, you know, in some instances is needed. And then, you know, you can put in here other options like copying your commander stuff to make it so there's even more spells going around. What I mean by that is something like a Spark Double, because it doesn't count as a legendary creature, so it doesn't kill the original copy, or Helm of the Host. Those are 2 options that you can use to copy Kalamax, sometimes repeatedly, sometimes just once, to make it so that more death and destruction comes. Remember that when you copy your commander, only the object that is your commander counts as commander damage. A lot of people ask about that. No, if you copy your commander, no, the copy does not count for commander damage. Remember that, okay? And that's what I've got for you this week. Again, I told you we're 1 day before the con. This will be available for sale there. I brought the price down to 100 even, so it'll be there. If it does not sell at the con, or any of the stuff that I bring there, remember I have like 35 or 40 budget battle brew, the 60 card beginner decks slash starter decks. I've got about 25 commander decks. This one's one of them. They're all going to be there and available, and I know that most of you aren't going to be in the area, but whatever doesn't sell will be available on the Facebook Marketplace, or you can go to my Facebook business page, and I have a post that shows you what's left over, and I will tell you how to go about purchasing them if you want to do so. All right? Other than that, so I would please ask that you like the video. I didn't give as big an upgrade guide, but I did, you know, I'm pretty busy right now. I'm trying to get the con ready to go. I still got a couple things to do, so I had to get through this pretty quickly. Subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. We're at almost 460 at this point. We're inching into that 500. The goal is 1,000. I do a lot. Let's try to get it up there. And share this out to somebody who wants to learn about a build for Kalamax, may want to buy a deck, this deck specifically if they want to, or just learn about the game in general and different ways to play. My contact information, if you want to talk to me for any reason, which means buying it, asking questions, buying the deck, asking questions, anything. We've got a couple ways. Facebook, on Blue Bears Games on there. You see my symbol, it should be recognizable. You can also hit me up on email. It's bluebearsgames@gmail.com. And if you need to, you can give me your contact information and I'll contact you. So either way, should work. That's my time for the week. I got to get out of here and get my con ready. I will see you all next week, and I have so many more to get. I didn't get it all in time before the con, so if it doesn't sell, if any of the decks that don't sell that I didn't do a video on, I'll start doing them going forward. Have a good one. I will see you all next week.